All right, episode 176. Today we're going to talk about that big real estate market energy.
Ooh.
We're going to get started right now.
Fancy title.
All right, episode 176. Today we're going to talk about that big real estate market energy as well as how it can be mentally exhausting and how you push forward on that. But before we get started, we got to really thank our sponsors for this show. First up is our favorite loan officer, Mortgage Mike.
Yeah.
Mortgage Mike of Texas. He's given that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. So you're going to want to go and talk with him right now. I know he's been doing cash out refinances right now for several investors. So
really,
there's investors still taking advantage of it and needing to get their cash. So
good call.
Rates are a little bit higher on that.
But if you bought pre-pandemic and then your equity position is probably really high. So even it looks so brutal. Can I tell you guys a story? I was in California last week and I was leaving my hotel room and the little thing that goes to keep the door open, but mine wasn't the small one. It's like the big square hinge one, and I didn't know that it was pushed forward, and I went like this to put my backpack on right as I walked through the door, and I was walking full stride and hit the corner of it like really hard. It's like one of those things like you feel like such a baby for it hurting so bad, but it hurts so bad.
It's a dead arm.
But it hurts. It hit me right in the dead arm spot. It's pointy. But from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like much happened. No. But I was almost floored, and it was just it stayed with me for over a week, and it looks so.
You probably were, baby, but who's not is Mortgage Mike. So MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. He's over there giving out loans that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. So go to MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. Then that hard shell protection. Armadillo. Well, that's Armadillo Home Warranty. He's going to give you that hard shell protection on your house. Go over to Theron Smith, armadillo.1/TORE, T-O-R-E, and let them know that we sent you, and go get that home warranty on the house. Go get that home warranty on that investment property that Dana Wynn over at Homeward's going to manage.
HomewardDFW.com, the home of Homeward Property Management.
The home.
Right? We really, really, really appreciate all the referrals. We have an amazing announcement about Homeward to make.
Yes, we started this company 15 months ago now, since we're now March.
Something like that, yeah.
It's now 15 months ago. And, we were just like, hey, let's start a property management company. I was like, no, let's not.
Nick was very much opposed.
I was not on board with it. But Brian, Matt, and really Dana, she was so persuasive. She's really persuasive. If you get to know her, Dana will persuade you into anything.
Saleswoman of
I like how he just said like Brian, Matt. Matt was like, are we doing more stuff together? All right, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So true.
So we're like, all right, let's just do this. And, this, because of your referrals, because if you heard it on the show, you shout us out on Facebook groups, the referrals that we get from our clients and investors and landlords, we have surpassed 100 doors that we're managing.
Woo!
They're amazing. Yes. So that is a testament to how great that Dana's doing over at HomewardDFW.com. And I know that she's bringing on like 21 properties right now. So we're 101 doors right now with 21 more in the queue. And, the Claw. Are we talking about White Claw or are we talking about Kelderman's Claw?
That Claw over there.
We're
talking about the Claw.
This is what happens when you punch things and your fist isn't tough as it should be.
Oh, my God.
Here's the real problem is, like, Kelderman's just not the type of dude who's just going to walk around punching things, right? So, like, I don't understand what a good punch looks like. So when you try to show off a bad punch.
I can tell if you're hitting with this part of your hand.
It's not good.
I don't think you're doing
the transfer of force was not correct down the thing. But everything's fine. The door's fine. My wrist lost. Whatever.
Man.
But because of that, it's like big real estate energy going on.
Yeah. I know. It's like I honestly feel like Jason Pierre-Paul after he blew his paw off, and then you know what I mean. Like now I can just walk around just clubbing people out of my way. Like if I need to get to the quarterback. When he was still playing this year, I think.
Well,
Yes,
he
he's still
blew his
playing.
fingers off in a firework.
Yeah, it was a
accident.
firework
July.
situation.
Didn't
yeah.
he play like the next
He played
season?
the next season.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was in the summertime, and then he
He was giving Longhorns to everybody, but he played.
I don't even think he missed training camp.
No,
Yeah,
he
it was
did.
just- Thanks, man. Thank you.
Before we get into like kind of how this real estate market is and how it can be so temperamental and can just drain you mentally. One minute you feel like you're in control, the next day you're like, all right, this is not going. And it's only March 1st. But
I feel like it's here. I want to stop that though, because I feel like it's finally March 1st.
Really?
I actually, yeah, dude. Because here's the thing: is man, I think the exhaustion is just we are at the. I would not say the end, but we are in the home stretch of a very long sprint.
Yeah.
It feels like it started in August, right?
think
like
so.
after
Are we?
interest rates went up in May. And then you get to the end of the summer and the beginning of like Q3, middle of Q3. Investors want to start picking up properties, get them ready for the spring, like whatever, right? Like, and then you go on the holidays, so it's kind of hard to justify why people are going to like move. And then you get the new year, and it's kind of like January, February aren't that exciting. Like, I always feel a sense of renewal with the spring real estate market, like always.
I think that's a really good point because I can totally understand the perspective, and like I kind of want to explore both sides of this because like pound for pound. We're just talking about it a second ago. Like both of our teams, it feels like really mentally exhausting right now. It feels crazy every day and not necessarily in a good way. It feels like we're still fighting this like ages long battle. And then you look at the stats and like our businesses are actually doing almost right on target with what they were doing last year. And I'm like, why does it feel so much more exhausting right now?
Do you think it's just because the level of activity? Maybe I was less physically tired this time last year. I was way more irritated and exhausted by the real estate market because I was just tired of my buyers getting their ass kicked. I was tired of reasonable people making reasonable offers or reasonable people making unreasonable
Crazy
offers
offers,
and still getting smoked, right? And while I appreciated the advantage sellers had, I also was annoyed with the fact that my knowledge value meant nothing in that market.
And it was hard to take listings. There are barely any coming on the market.
That's the thing. Like that market felt much more for me. It felt much more fearful of. I don't know how to navigate a space where like just anybody with a real estate license is equal. This feels like it is. I've talked to a guy today, right? We were calling expireds. He used the word sharp so many times. Somebody used his word. His previous real estate agent was just not sharp enough, right? And the person he was going to hire, he wanted somebody who was sharp. And I heard that and I was like, finally, the dodo birds are revealing themselves. And like quality, valuable intelligence is worth it again, right?
Yeah.
So that I was excited.
Yes, I agree. But
Getting here has been exhausting.
yes, getting here. But this part's exhausting in the sense that our value's gone back up, right? So during COVID, there was I think we did it on the show that real estate agents during COVID, our stock value went up because people weren't allowing showings. You had to figure out how to sell things, with sight unseen, and then ultimately the inventory dropped. Interest rates went to 2.75%, and anything could sell. A dog turd of a house could sell, and so then our stock value just plummeted, and anybody with a pulse could go buy and sell, and then ultimately we ran that course for a year and a half. That was almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Then we kept saying, man, we need interest rates to go up. We need interest rates to go. We need interest rates to go up. That starts happening. Buyers start pulling back. They're like, oh, interest rates are gone up.
Yeah.
Like they were the ones, complaining about having to pay an arm and a leg over. And, if you remember, I did a poll last year where I was like, all right, would you rather? It was a would you rather.
Yeah.
Would you rather pay $100,000 over
Kiss,
asking
marry,
price?
kill.
Yeah. Would you rather pay $100,000 over asking price, but you get you're getting a low rate, right? You're getting a lower interest rate, but you got to come out of pocket that $100,000 over asking. You're coming out your down payment plus that $100,000.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were doing a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Or today's market, you're paying a little higher interest rate. You're able to negotiate. In fact, here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, on average, a homeowner is coming off almost 7% off their asking price. You could probably get closing costs paid. Would you rather be in that market? And everyone picked the lower interest rate market, even though it's depleting their cash. And so where I looked at it, like you're right, our stock value has gone back up. But you've got these days where, like this past week, Monday, we executed a whole bunch of deals. Some of these deals have multiple offers on them. Some of our clients lost out in a multiple offer situation, and we have agents responding like, "Market's back, multiple offers are back.
It is weird. Like
Yes,
that.
and I'm like, this is guys. There was multiple offers during the 2008 recession. By the way,
Yes.
That's piss poor marketing on their part. Yeah. That's just them with nothing to say, trying to say the thing that's like on the top of their mind, right? Because here's what's happening, right? We're back to having houses fall out of contract twice, having to get back under contract for a third time, right? Like that sense of urgency isn't there. And I want to speak to this buyer thing you were talking about because I had this conversation with someone on our team the other day. Were we just having a conversation with a different group? Like every single person, we can admit, is just a different human being who's going to react to things differently depending on their opinion, their attitude, right? Those people back then, if we could go back and ask those people who bought during that time and overpaid by $150,000, they might say, hey, I would rather have paid a higher interest rate, right? Are we just talking to a different group of people now that have a different concern? And it's just mimicking whatever they're hearing on television? And it would no matter what?
No, that's exactly what I was about to say. I wish you could give human beings that much credit. It's just not the truth, right?
Maybe.
This is the epitome of groupthink mentality. No. If you ask people right now, because think about it, the only people that are going to answer that poll are the people that are have an opinion about the market.
And they're probably actively in it or...
Yeah, so your opinion is probably going to be in line with whatever groupthink thinks about the market at any given time. So, like, what are real estate professionals trying to say about the market right now? Like, softening prices, you can get, closing costs. So, like, that poll might look different now because we're in a different environment, but that's just groupthink mentality. If you can imagine an objective level, right? And overpay, again, is, Nick busted me for saying overpay before. It's really, you buy a house when it's right for you to buy a house. You're going to hold on to it long enough that you didn't necessarily overpay because if you were still renting, let's just say, then you were overpaying for that apartment because your equity position was zero, right? But if you just look at it objectively, choosing to sacrifice your liquidity position heading into a part of the economic cycle that has higher rates and more expensive goods and services is usually a dumb thing to do, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say you have $200,000 in the bank, right? And you're trying to lock in a 2.5% interest rate, but you're going to have to spend an extra 100 of that to lock it in to get the house, right? If you knew that you're about to go into an economic environment where things were more expensive, we were in a recessionary part of the cycle, you would want liquidity. You would want money in your hands, right?
Hang on, are you telling me that there's groupthink and now you're using words like liquidity and economic cycle to describe an individual's thought process? Because that sounds
what I'm saying,
super crazy.
What I'm saying is that's what groupthink is they don't consider those things.
No, they don't.
That's why it's groupthink.
But isn't that why we get on the phone? Because here's the thing is when you do get on the phone, I called 97 people this morning. I have had 5 solid conversations.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself every time at some point in all those conversations, these are the 5 people who get it.
Yes.
Right? They get that overall
that percentage is probably about right on.
It's really small, right? And I think that is why, this isn't a lead generation thing, but that's why you have to have these conversations because otherwise you do, and maybe this is why my thinking is stupid because I do have those conversations. So I'm looking at it as, no, the people who really want to do this are still revealing themselves. And you're right, the other 92 people that I called today who either didn't answer or whatever, I don't know what they thought. But point being is isn't that the reason you have to have these conversations? Because it's the only way to shake out the small percentage of humans who actually understand what's going on and want to have a conversation with you about you helping them?
I think that might be why it's an exhausting part of time in the market. It's like, I heard you on the phone today. You had long conversations where you actually had to bring a lot to the table as far as the conversation. So maybe it's not anything outside, like the amount of production we're doing, which seems about stable. It's like, the conversations we're having to have are kind of exhausting. Right now,
that's what
right?
I was about to, I was about to say. Is that where we're at? It's like once you stop working out and then you start again, you're like, shit hurts.
Like you're still strong, but it hurts a lot more the next day.
Yes, you know what to do and everything else, but now we haven't been trained up on this because since 2020 we've just been running and gunning. And in fact, like there's an article that I wanted to bring up because this is how I believe that kind of the idiocracy of just how the last couple of years has been is that more home buyers are blaming their agents and hauling them into court because of what happened in the COVID run-up years, where there was an uptick in these buyers suing agents because during that time you saw in order to win a deal, what did they have to do? Waive inspections, right? They needed to go over asking price. Buyers felt like they were overpaying.
Does it say anything in there about how many people are winning those cases? Its
problem is it's hitting errors in omission and it's more settlements, and so that's going up. And so ultimately, the idiocracy part of this is like people going through that time, they're already thinking they're overpaying, right? That was the sentiment, but they're still doing it anyway.
Well,
but
your poll is living proof.
Yes, but right now they don't want to go. They are like, no, interest rates are too high. When we can go solve that problem, we can actually go and get them a lower rate.
Yeah, the
we can
thing
get
that
them.
People are suing an agent for is no longer part of the environment, and you're still annoyed about rates.
Yes,
when that's a lever you could pull.
Yes, now
you could get a lower rate.
Buyers were all jumping in because the real estate market was hot.
Yeah,
and they were paying XYZ price. I won't say it's overpaid because I believe in market value. That's the way the market value. That's the way the market determined it.
That's what you had
you
to do
were
at the
willing.
time,
you were willing to buy that house to jump in to get that home to satisfy whatever your housing needs were.
In 2020, this guy convinced me Bitcoin would already be over $100,000.
I was wrong.
I bought a bunch.
I was pretty sure. I was pretty sure we would get there. We got close for a while.
And whatever. Like
Here's the thing.
Sue.
By the way, I'm still buying Bitcoin every month. That's called long time horizon.
Yeah, mine's tied up in BlockFi.
And BlockFi.
Oh, yeah, it's tied up.
I feel so regret that you're the one person I didn't send that text message to that I didn't know you had BlockFi. I was warning people like crazy like a week before. I pulled all my stuff out. Did you get your papers from the bankruptcy filing?
I need to do it. Yeah,
I'm getting $12.60 back. That was still locked up in my BlockFi wallet.
By the way,
all the other stuff was moved.
I had 3 coins in there, so that $12 or
you
whatever.
Had 3 coins? Oh my gosh, bro! I had $12 worth of stuff still in there.
Yeah. So, but
you'll get it back.
You start
but
seeing,
it goes to your point.
You start seeing like this is what can be mentally exhausting with this business is that now is the time for buyers.
Yeah.
Right now is the time, and for sellers too. You need to sell. It's still a great time to sell. We're technically. I was at the chiropractor today, and he's like, yeah, he's like, my other client or patient is a real estate agent, and they were telling how it's 50-50 balanced market. I'm like, well, technically that's not true. Like,
what does that even mean when agents say that?
I don't know, and I hate when people say that shit in the first place because if you're going off a definition, that's 6 months of inventory in the marketplace.
And honestly, in DFW, and I know this is we speak to people who aren't out there, but a lot of these major metropolitan areas, like you can't even say that because there's so many neighborhoods that like you're just showing the fact that you don't really understand your own market.
Too big and broad.
Because like there are markets that are 5 miles from here that are still decent, and then there are markets that are 10 miles the other direction that would be like, all right, you can get whatever you want.
Yeah.
Market as a whole, we're still technically in a seller's market.
Yeah.
I said, look, interest rates drop by a point, all of a sudden multiple offers are back.
And
it raises up, and then all of a sudden it's dead, and you're begging for offers.
But here's the thing: is if you're really making phone calls and talking to sellers, and you're sitting there selling, it's a seller's market and all this other stuff. You are having a terrible conversation with them, though. Like if you're just saying like, hey, it's still a seller's market based off inventory. You're not really giving them a realistic picture of what they should expect, because they're going to hear what they've heard
if
for the
you're
last 2 years.
equating it to anything from the last 2 years,
you could say, hey, it's still a seller's
really
market like 2018 was,
Yeah.
or 2019 was,
for
right?
sure.
Because it feels like that,
Yeah,
with
that's
higher prices.
the way to put it, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's where you start getting like 1 minute. Why we even titled it this big real estate market energy is 1 minute you feel like you have control over this.
Yeah.
The next minute it's all chaos. There's nothing happening. You're never making money again. And you're, like Brian said, he was applying at Arby's for jobs.
Yeah,
because they got good jalapeno poppers.
I do. I just want to meet James Earl Jones.
I don't get the reference.
I don't either.
He does all their commercials. He's the voice.
Oh, I don't watch TV with commercials.
Y'all are so fancy. But I'm living proof. And ask my wife, like we were talking about, like it just feels like that roller coaster. Like some days are the worst days to be around Brian, and the next day it's just like it feels like everything's falling our way again. So and I just like, how do you get past that?
Is this the plight of the entrepreneur?
I think it is.
And so you just get to a certain level. I had a beautiful conversation, or you heard a beautiful story on a coaching call today with somebody who I believe is very enlightened spiritually. And they were just, even in the sense that they were advising other people, they were still acknowledging that like real world happens. It makes sense to be exhausted, right? Like I don't think this market is easy for anybody. Enlightened people are getting frustrated. Positive people are getting worried. I wouldn't say getting worried means like I'm spreading. There's nothing to be worried about in this market, right?
Yeah.
Enlightened, calm and positive people are getting cautious. as far
There's
as how they're
disruption. There's
spending, right?
disruption in the world, yeah.
Even people I know who normally give off a pretty easy energy and then back it up with action are still looking at this thing sideways, right? So I think that's worth it. And you've been saying for 5 months that we had to get through this little bit of the 150 days, the 150 days, 150 days. And I bought into that, and I do see it opening back up, right? I very much believe that this spring market, regardless of interest rates, is going to be very attractive, but not just because you showed up to work that day with a real estate license. It's going to be attractive for the people who are taking advantage of it by getting out there and doing something.
Here's how I know. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Here's how I know that it's going to just get back to at least some semblance of normal. And when I say normal, we're talking buyer's market, seller's market over. Like, you're going to have supply and demand levels balanced. Like, the amount of activity will balance in a way that if you are a good real estate professional, you'll do well if you work hard, right? Now I know that's going to happen. Like, we're coming off one of the most, I would say, disruptive or uncharacteristic experiences that anybody who's alive right now has ever experienced in the pandemic.
Well, no one's ever experienced this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No one who's alive right now has ever experienced a global pandemic before. And you know what? For the most part, now, anecdotal stuff aside, I know there's a lot of horrible things that happen, and people are still dealing with a lot of stuff, right? Like, for the most part, we figured out how to make life carry on. Politics and opinions aside, actually relatively quickly.
Yeah.
We adapted. We changed. We learned how to live with what was going on, right? I only say that to say, March of 2020, we were just positive it was all over, right? And I don't mean just from the real estate market. We were positive that this was I Am Legend now. Nick had a bunker, bro. We were talking about it. Nick has like a secret bunker. He won't tell us where it is, right? Like,
don't eat the food now. It's all
it's
spoiled.
all gone, right?
Spoiled.
Dudes, but I say all that to say, like, we figured it out, right? Only from the sense that, like, this is actually like my way of saying things. I think is a little unique in the sense that, like, I don't actually think that we figured out how to cope with the pandemic and get life back to some semblance of normalcy because we're such a spirited species and, like, we were so motivated to do it. Really, it's that we get really bored with the way things are and we hate inconvenience. And so we just find a way to get back to life as normal in some way, shape, or form. If I am moving on to the next chapter of my life and I need to buy or sell a home, it really doesn't matter what the market environment is eventually. We're going to just get used to it, and the amount of activity will normalize with the amount of people that need to buy or sell a home. That's why in the 80s, people would buy with 18% interest rates. They didn't do it overnight. There was a scaling up, and then a level of activity got back to normal. But it wasn't because we did anything special. Human beings are just great at two things. They're great at adapting to their environments, and they're really good at getting bored with old news. And in this day and age, news becomes old much more quickly. So even at 7.25% interest rates, going into the spring, we just will have been at those levels long enough that people are just going to move if they need to move.
Well, yeah, and you know, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, like if you start marketing correctly, your message needs to match the market, and so ultimately, you know, your first-time home buyer picks back up. There's opportunities there. So the last 2 years, actually, I think I'm going to make this stat up because I believe I read it somewhere.
Sweet.
So I think it's real truth is that the first-time homebuyer market was the lowest it had been in the past 2 years because it became unaffordable, and it was unattainable for them to compete in that marketplace.
Just the last 2 years, I would have thought even longer. So, I mean, I believe that for sure.
Well, but think about 2019. 2017, 2018, and 2019, you had the market didn't take off, so there was still some room in there for them to compete.
Okay, maybe I understood. Yeah. Maybe I understood the stat wrong. I was thinking like it was the least affordable for first-time home buyers in like the last 30 years.
Oh no,
or something like that.
They're just looking at year over year.
Okay, I see what you're
but
saying.
Ultimately, like
that's where it hit the trough.
Yeah, it really dipped during right after COVID.
Yeah,
prices shot up. People were having to come with all that extra cash. They didn't have it.
Right.
And so now you start looking at, all right, where's your opportunity? And then you start working towards that. Like you work towards. I think I read another one. I need to start writing these down to actually source it. But single female buyers are picking back up at a much larger clip.
Really?
Right? For home ownership. I think Elizabeth had shared.
Wasn't
that
that a pretty solid stat pre-pandemic or
Pre-pandemic,
somewhere around there too?
we-
Like I feel like we've talked
did
about
this
that stat before.
The the first time female home buyer was younger than the first time male home
Yes,
buyer.
we did that.
Yep, we did
So
that. I was
women
like-
just get together so much faster than us dum-dums.
Well, dudes rather just live in a rental house with a whole bunch of other dudes and play
We
video
have
games.
way
and-
lower standards
Yeah.
for our living environment.
Like
That is mad true.
Look, it just needs a bathroom, a good internet connection, and then just watching sports and playing video games.
Pretty much it.
Let's all just go get a pad split together.
What else is there to get?
But so you start looking at this and saying, all right, where can you start meeting the market that is needed? Money changes hands when problems are solved. So you start going there. In our area, maybe I'm sure across the United States, the Hispanic population, the Hispanic buyer, definitely was not doing great from a home ownership over the last couple of years. We're starting to see that pick back up, right? And ultimately, the way Liza runs our Spanish speaking division, and ultimately what we found before is like a lot of times when it came to interest rates, the Spanish speaking clientele were getting higher interest rates well before rates were low.
Really?
Like go look at back in the day, Banco Popular. Banco Popular was charging Hispanic buyers like 10, 12, 13, 14% interest rates. That's when we were doing short sales on Banco Popular stuff, and I was like, holy smokes. How are you charging interest rates like that?
I would have done it for way less.
I did talk to somebody today that might be in a short sale situation. That's the first time I've had that conversation. in a
while.
I've got one right now.
long
We had
time.
one late last year with one of our agents, but he bought right at the peak and then had to sell like 3 months later. And that just, it was
Jesse,
such a,
go back
it was
to
the quick
that's
timeline.
that's a tough situation, and that is one of the things why Jesse's pulling this stat. That is one of the things that I think is important to recognize in this market is that at the end of the day, like there are just going to be a lot of people. Nice, got my kid texting me. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to still be really active in this market, and I think one of the most fun things that I've had is this, because look, I've said on before, my lead generation last year and during the pandemic was not great. I was one of those people who really rode the wave, and the wave didn't hit me the way it hit other people, like because I coming out of a divorce, not paying attention to my business, not doing the things that I used to do, into a market that while there was a lot of activity, we also have to admit that there were a lot of agents who weren't getting their fair share of that activity because they just they weren't listing heavy, they couldn't procure buyers, they didn't know how to navigate that stuff.
Couldn't get people under contract with their buyers.
So even that old head real estate vibe of like, hey, my deals will just fall in my lap from the other people, like that didn't dry up, but that wasn't this agent referrals dropped off. There were all these things that happened that being back in a market right now that makes sense. You talked about like niche markets. You know what the niche market is? And like, I'm never this guy on the show. It's just hard fucking work, dude. Like just kind of showing up and talking to somebody about anything, if that's not what you're already doing, can be your niche. You are right. If agents are looking for some place to kind of dive into, there are lots of places to do it. And I'll text you later.
what is his profile?
It's his
picture,
Valentine.
by the
Valentine's
way?
Day's over
It's
too.
way
By the
over
way, dude.
there.
It's
Yeah.
March. We need
First
some
off,
spring one.
Theron.
I need Theron. Nope. Theron, if you don't have a stork carrying you in a swaddle as a baby before tomorrow, I don't want you to sponsor this show anymore.
Matt's hand definitely did not have that hard shell.
No, it did
protection.
not. It does now, though. But
But
go ahead.
I mean, you're right. So go, Jesse. Go pull back up that NAR stat. So highlights for it's you just go on nar.realtor, whatever that is, and you can look at the stats. So you can start looking here that amongst first-time home buyers, 18% of buyers were unmarried couples, 5% were other household compositions, and both are highest shares recorded. So both of these for first-time home buyers are up.
What is the stat where it says 91%? I don't mean to make this weird. 91% of these home buyers identify as heterosexual, 2% is gay or lesbian, 2% is bisexual, 5% prefer not to answer. Who's asking these people?
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
Why are
they're
you
just
doing that?
Dude, they're very simple polls. I mean, like you even get them now,
Okay.
like when you sign up for like medical stuff. Like we just switched insurance. So
I
just
thought
signed
it
up
was
for
like
recent
at
closing.
closing. Heather's
They'll even
just like-
ask, right? Like, Did some poll they sent out to
title,
home buyers?
Heather at Lawyers Title is sending out this. All right, I got a couple more questions before closing, before I can turn these keys over. Hank, where you at?
That's what it popped in my head. I was like, is that part of the escrow?
Yeah, it's like instead of back in the day they used
really
to
invasive.
Back in the day they used to put the thing on there. It was like, well, do you where do you want us to send your docs? Like, do you want us to email them to you or whatever? Now it's like the lender has a few questions for you about the experience
before they
slide that shit on the end. A new topless photo. Too busy setting all these people. I love you, dude. You're amazing.
Yeah, and so like 14% are multi-generational homes. I thought honestly we were going to see that be a lot higher because that was starting. Like if you remember, builders were starting to do multi-gen homes.
Yeah.
And
why do we think that's a low number though, right? Like why do we think that like that 14 is low? Because I actually think 14% of the market buying a home they intend to have an older family member or some family member stay with them in. I think that's a massive
higher
number.
than it used to be.
Of course, it's definitely higher because we're seeing it said on there. Children 18 years or older are starting to move back in with parents, and we saw that. I think that happened during COVID too, right?
That happened during COVID, and we're a diverse country. You have a lot more immigration to the United States from cultures where multi-generational homes are the norm.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it as well.
So if you look at there's so many niches that you can go down, and you start looking at these and saying, all right, if there's 14% of this, you go and say, how many could I go pick up in our area? And you start talking about it, or you start calling about it. You start becoming that local expert on it. Whether that's first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers are more affected by the interest rate. So can you go and start figuring out how to solve that interest rate problem and say, go to Mortgage Mike, so mortgagemikeoftexas.com, and get it that 2-1 interest rate buy down, so that their interest rates become lower for the first 2 years, and then ultimately, because you're the market expert, you've done research on that, you've listened to the show enough to understand that we believe and what the experts believe is that interest rates are going to come down toward the later half of 23 and ultimately in the beginning of 24. So you're going to see some mini refinance boom at the beginning of the first quarter, the second quarter of 2024.
You probably will, and I think there's one thing that I want to dive into because you mentioned short sales before. I think something to put if you're an agent, like just thinking about this, or maybe like drawing conclusions or parallels or whatever. We do this thing, and I am so adamant that we educate ourselves as real estate professionals and be better so we can be kind of the economic advisor of choice for our clients. I do think there will actually be short sales that pick up. Why? It's very simple. We had 7 or 8 straight months of softening prices nationwide, and then that's going to coincide with, if you followed the news, quite a decent amount of layoffs. And if you look at was it a wholesale index, I think, that was higher than expected, which
it wasn't much higher though.
It wasn't much higher. It doesn't matter though. When you're walking a tightrope with inflation, anything over estimates is sucks, right? Dude, even Ray Dalio, Bridgewater, they're laying off 100 people, and if you know anything about that guy, like that probably keeps him up at night, right? Somebody else just laid off 500 more people today. There's gonna be a lot of layoffs, unfortunately, and when you have people that bought a home and then you have mass layoffs, unfortunately you're going to have short sales. What I do want to draw a comparison to is people start to go, just the normal thing they're going to do is go, short sales, Great Recession, financial crisis, same thing. Not the same thing. Not the same thing at all. We're not going into a Great Recession type environment, and I actually don't even mean that to be better or worse. Actually, I said this last year, if you go back and listen to the podcast. If we had like a big real estate crash, right, where prices just went super down and foreclosures skyrocketing and stuff, you could actually still really thrive as a real estate professional because you could help people get a great deal on a home, right? So I'm not even saying this will be better or worse than the Great Recession. It'll just be different. Understand that short sales or foreclosures in this environment won't necessarily align with a market crash. It will be a correction between essentially the labor market, home prices, interest rates, all coinciding to sort of even themselves out in a very volatile chapter in our economy's history. You could see short sales while also seeing low inventory, and in some areas you could see short sales and homes that are on the market that are not short sales that still get multiple offers and go above list price. I'm telling you, look in 6 months, in the same neighborhoods, you will see homes getting multiple offers and go above asking price, and you'll see short sales that sit. I guarantee you.
Of course. I mean, that happened during the recession, though.
Sort of.
Happened in Richardson. Like, the neighborhood I lived in, that neighborhood went up 10%, but there was also some short sales in there. And so there's multiple offers on some, the short sales, and there are some properties that were more distressed that did not sell. So
I'm sure hyperlocal the broader point I'm trying to make is, like, we always take, like, the worst traits of bad economic times and then, like, think that every economic cycle that has some of those traits is the exact same. This just isn't anything like the Great Recession. Well, it's not better or worse. It's way different.
It's the talking heads, which we kind of follow this right now, unfortunately, is that we're trying to compare it because people want to compare things to the past so that we have some type of understanding. We think we have an understanding of what's coming.
you want security from what's coming,
right?
Like,
don't worry about it. I've been through this. Like, this is what happened before.
Yep.
I can predict the future.
There's a familiarity.
This is how it's going to be versus, look, I will say this trend typically stays true. So if you're following that niche market, is like if you have a good college, colleges around you, typically in recessions, job layoffs happen, which we're starting to see, especially in the tech industry. If a true recession were to hit and go hardcore, we see people go back to college, right? They want to become better educated. They want to go back and finish their degrees or maybe get a graduate degree. And so we start to see college admission go up, and then we see student housing or rental areas, by the colleges go up. So maybe start being prepared for that if we get to that.
Well,
look at those numbers.
We're seeing something that we I don't believe we've seen a lot in the in the layoff market either. White collar jobs are being laid off. And like, while a lot of people may not want to like normally it is blue collar jobs where the layoffs happen. It is not happening. Like, it is happening. You said in the tech industry.
It happened in the .com, right?
Absolutely. And I also think that was probably the first and only time we've ever seen that. But like, that is one of the weird things about this market is you're actually seeing like we're seeing jobs that, for lack of a better, I've always thought in a zombie apocalypse, right? And not I've thought this is true. Lawyers are unnecessary. Yeah. Plumbers are very necessary,
it's
right?
Going to be street justice.
Engineers are very necessary, right?
Medics.
And we're in an environment where you're seeing like
comedians. If you watch this show,
the first-time home buyer, mid-range buyer market, which in Dallas is like the price point of anywhere between 200 and 600, depending on what neighborhood you're trying to live in, right? Like that market is really thriving, right? I looked this morning; there were a ton of luxury opportunities. And one of the agents asked me why I didn't call on those. And I said, one, I'm not super interested in luxury listings. I'll take luxury buyers all day long, but luxury listings are a bit of a pain in the ass for me. But more importantly, I don't believe that I currently have the net. You talk about working your niches. Also recognize I don't have the network right now to be really focused on those types of listings. Plus, that is not the highest and best use of my time. Look at the
inventory. The inventory, there's in our area, there's over 12 months of inventory. Yeah. So you start seeing that. I'm like, nope. Because now you're setting yourself up for failure on that one. Over 12 months of inventory in that higher, that higher luxury market means it's going to take a lot longer potentially to sell.
Yeah.
So your service time is there, and there's a lot more. It increases your odds of it not selling and you not getting a return on your time, energy, and effort
associated with it usually. So I get that.
I get it from a vanity piece standpoint. It's one of those things.
Cool, man.
It is this little stupid broken hand thing has revealed a lot about myself to me. Like,
you can't throw a punch.
Well, yes, and that you kind of have to relinquish control on some stuff when I can take this off and still write. It's fine. It's a stupid broken pinky. I'm not acting like I lost a hand. But my point being is it's frustrating to have to do stuff I want everybody tomorrow to use your non-dominant hand to brush your teeth, right? Put your pants on. Try putting your pants on with your non-dominant hand, right? Try tying your shoes in reverse order.
Have you just go get Velcro shoes?
Well, I do wear these old man Allbirds, so I just slip them on. My point is, I was literally brushing my teeth. I might as well have had someone I've never met brushing my teeth. It felt that forward. My head's bouncing all around. I can't figure it. The arm motion doesn't make any sense. And I'm I don't understand why something as simple as brushing my teeth, putting my pants on, and anything else you want to think of that you do daily that would be difficult to switch hands on, right? There's a couple of obvious ones. Brian brought up a great one. Just open the door to your car. So I actually didn't put this cast on. I did this on Friday, but I didn't put this cast on until yesterday. So I was rolling all weekend just thinking it was a sprain or whatever. Yeah. And I went to pick up a cup.
Yeah.
Grab it by the top of the cup and just pick it up and move it. You would have thought fireworks went off inside the palm of my hand. There was just immediate shooting pain. With doing the simplest thing, just take a moment to think about that. And the reason I say all this is
Hold
because
the brush and move your head.
I know, right? That's would look like something else.
The thing about the car is just really quickly.
Yeah.
Do this, but challenge yourself to think about this in a way that you're approaching the door as if you're going to open it with your dominant hand, and then stand right where you're about to open it and open it with your non-dominant hand, and tell me if you don't open that door right into your face or knee.
And
Because you're not standing in the right spot. You're getting too close to it to not open it with your dominant hand. That's the thing. When you don't think about it, you open it right into yourself.
And that's the thing is when you don't think about it, you will. This is where I'm bringing, and this is where I think it ties into real estate. I went to the rec center with Luke yesterday, and I was just determined to play basketball. And I'm like, I'm just going to shoot with my left hand. Right? Like I'm going to figure out like how to shoot and do layups with my left hand. Here is what happens. And Stephen Crawford, shout out to you as just a trainer of my body for like 3 years when we used to work out together. Right? Like, dude, when you actually think about the movements involved, it's incredibly simple to replicate. It's slow. It's clunky. Yeah. You can't do it from as far because there's no like fluidity to it. But like when you sit and think about it, I can replicate everything. I was writing with my left hand yesterday. It was legible. Right? Yeah. Like I'm not saying it looked awesome, but you got to slow down. When you actually do think about the moves, when you're working out and you're like, I told you guys this before, you're thinking like flex your lats, right? Spread the floor with your legs, do all these things to get this perfect form. When you do that, you end up being able to maneuver through whatever kind of resistance there is. This is the same thing with your real estate business right now, right? Like there is an aspect of just sitting down and thinking your way through some of these things, how you're going to attack them. Brian asked us this beautiful question that I've implemented in so many parts of my life of what happens next. Like when you really internalize that question about everything you're doing and you ask yourself before you spend money, right? Before you sign up for this thing, before you order Jimmy John's for lunch like I did today and had buyer's remorse, I spent $14 for a fucking sandwich, right? Like,
and Jimmy John's is across the street.
Yeah, and I could have saved $5. It's because I don't want to leave the office. I'm lead generating, right?
There you go. I mean,
but the point being is like when I sit down and I think about the actual actions of or the movements in the action I'm taking, you get a lot more granular, right? Like think about how the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, and the hand all connect to each other from a mechanic standpoint. It's the same thing in your business. You were talking about calling some niche first-time homebuyers, right? That's not just working with first-time homebuyers. Now you also call expireds under $400,000 because you know that's an awesome first-time homebuyer network, and you're having amazing conversations with them. You go to all your inspections, so you understand that a shower pan or a drain pan missing under a water heater is not the biggest deal in the world. Yeah. And if they want to fix it, it's like $500 freaking dollars, right? Yeah. And you become a student of working with that type of buyer. It's not just working with first-time homebuyers. It's doing all these other things that make you amazing.
But again, you have to be the student rather than you half-ass it and then expect, it's that thought process that we've all gone through where you expect to work part-time effort to make full-time income.
Yeah. And you got to
I have to update my number, 18%.
You got to sit down and write with your left hand, right? Yeah. The pain you're going through right now, if it's not going well, is you're Matt with a broken hand still going to play basketball and fucking using his right hand, right? Yeah. Like you're going to have to just be a little uncomfortable because that's just what this market requires.
It almost is like if you never have made expired call, for sale by owner call, and you don't know the words, right? Or you're stumbling on yourself. It's almost like you're using that's the non-dominant part of your brain of having that conversation because normally you're just working using Sphere, and it's a natural flowing conversation because they already know, like, trust, and love you. But with the expireds, cancels, or for sale by owners, they're coming off in a defensive position. Right? They already don't like you. They don't trust you because something happened previously. Now you're trying to hurdle those objections and put those out of the way, and you're not prepared for them because you haven't practiced it. And so you make enough of those calls where now any of us makes those calls. Those are just in any market that you're in, it's the same objections. Like, or for sale by owner, like they're not wanting to pay a commission. They sold their house on their own previously just fine. They don't see value in a real estate agent because all we're going to do is put on the MLS.
Or their last agent was legitimately terrible and they shouldn't trust real estate agents.
Yes.
Or you skip the rules and start calling them at 7 a.m. like a dickwad. Or you start calling them at 8 a.m. when it's legal and you're just one of the millions of other people who are saying the same nonsense to them, right? Like you can actually even be attempting to do the right thing and still be doing it incorrectly.
Yes, I think in the first
the action matters.
I think the action matters in the beginning, and you could say the same thing. It doesn't matter. All three of us could make all the calls at the same time, have the same script, and the rule would be we could not deviate from that script. But if we did it every single day, we're going to get business because there's some people who may connect to the way our tonality comes. There may be somebody that connects because we're a male versus a female or vice versa. I know Elizabeth, this pissed Elizabeth off one time. She called this expired, and they would not meet with her because she was female. So she gave it to Arthur.
That's legitimately. I have a listing on the market right now. The exact same thing.
Yep.
Joanna. He straight up told Joanna he was not going to list with her. She sent it over to me. It is.
Yes. So she sent it to Arthur, and we listed it. And so they're it's just the same actions every single day, and then you're just matching. All right, how many calls? Because you can't control pickups, so you just control your calls. And then from there, you just read off of a freaking script, which is boring, and it's not exciting. But I'll tell you what is exciting. When you get someone to say yes, you meet with them, and then you sell their house, and then you get what? A payday.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I will tell you, if you want to, we say we're supposed to call them conversations now. By the way, guys, I think scripts is like an illegal word in real estate. I don't know if that's true or not.
Is that true?
I heard you can't call them scripts anymore. I heard you can't call them scripts anymore.
You told me that, but who else?
I heard
told me
that. Jesse can Google in the background. I did hear somebody, real estate people, chime in if that's a legit thing.
Is that a PC thing?
Here is what I will say though, right? So I wouldn't say favorite or whatever, but I think the most digestible expired script for me is Kevin Ward has an expired script. It's just questions, right? Yes. It's just asking questions. And the cool thing for me is I'm able to see it broken down into like three chunks, right? Three separate kind of ideas or motivations that you're trying to figure out. But here's the cool thing about it is even if somebody gives you an answer to a question, it's actually question 7 on that piece of paper, but they give it to you after you ask question 2, that doesn't mean you have to change anything. It just means that you get to keep it. And then when you get to question 7, you just, instead of asking that, you make it a statement.
Yeah, exactly.
And then follow it with question 8.
Yes.
And the reason I love it is because you can just, as long as you are listening, which I feel like that's necessary, right? Like you're going to be able to maneuver your way through it, and you will sound, even if you were just reading it, you will sound like you know what you're talking about to the point where you'll have enough decent conversations to then know what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
So I know it's like something get to yes, mastery of yes, or yes something.
Yes master,
yes master, something like that.
Get to yes.
Is he local?
Dude, I don't really know. I don't know squat about the guy. I think I follow him on Instagram a little bit, but Joanna sent it to me, and Joanna closes as many expireds as anybody I know. So there it is.
The Book of Yes. That's what
thinking of yes, something yes.
What's his name?
Kevin Ward.
Yeah, Kevin Ward.
Yeah.
But
he's very aerodynamic.
Look, I don't think scripts are illegal. I think what you've heard is it was about, I thought it was a commission script or something.
It might be. There's so many weird things in real estate that we freak out about that I'm not sure. Since we do this publicly, I want to make sure that I'm like somehow telling everybody to watch their
anything.
asses.
By the way, I think that's stupid anyway, because I think anything you say over and over and over becomes a true script, right? It's a.
I think you can use whatever you want for it. I actually think it's more mentally freeing to think of them as conversations, because for me, a script, it means I'm going to say these words, you're going to say these words, and eventually we're going to go dance together. It's actually not that. Like, scripts are really great.
I agree, Brandon.
What do you say?
That's the most ridiculous thing he's ever heard out of Kelderman's mouth.
Well, I'm not saying.
I agree with that. You know what, Brandon? You should leave a 1-star review, but only mention Kelderman's
But only mention me. Do not do that. We don't need that.
Yes.
And I need somebody to back me up, because I didn't just make this up. I heard it.
We were talking to the same person.
Yeah.
I remember this too.
I heard this. Anyways, who cares? I think thinking about them as conversations, though, is incredibly helpful, because it brings the humanity back into it. You are just talking to another person who, like, look, expired. We talk about expireds a lot, but let's be realistic. That would be really fucking annoying to, like, have your home come off the market, and then all of a sudden at 7 a.m. your phone starts blowing up, and all of a sudden people are, like, wanting to sell your home, and most of them are saying the exact same thing, right? Like, we all know that, right? Yeah. Like, they're all saying the exact same thing, and you just... And imagine if you're the type of person who just, like, for some compulsive reason, just couldn't ignore your phone, right? And now you feel like you have to pick all of these up, or that you even have to, because this is the thing. There are people out there like this who feel like, I don't want to hang up on somebody that's rude, right? Understand, in most of these scenarios, you're kind of being the obtrusive person. Find them first, and then come from value, right? But don't act like they owe you something because they expired and now you have their phone number, right? Like, they don't owe you shit, bro. You are being the obnoxious one.
I agree with that. And they've treated them poorly, like, like they asked for the phone call from you, like,
that guy's such a jerk.
Yeah,
like, bro, you just blew up his whole morning, and you and 50 other people, man. What do you expect?
If you call me at 7 a.m. multiple times in a row, I am going to be very, very irritated.
And also, keep calling expireds. Like, I'm not saying don't do it. Just don't be surprised at the work you have to put in, because you got to understand what you're doing on the other side.
Look, if you're afraid of rejection, I think you might not be, like, in a really great spot for the next little bit.
Super true.
Like I'm not saying the expired thing for one way or the other. It's just you're just gonna have to get okay with doing more, right? Like we talked about a couple episodes ago. You don't have to train at a heart rate of 150 beats a minute forever, but you got to train there sometimes, and you might just need to get on the Stairmaster for 30 minutes right now.
Yeah,
and it's gonna suck for a little bit.
You got to do the thing where you know that the gym is gonna suck today, and you're just gonna have to go.
Secret about the Stairmaster. Your legs stop burning after 10 minutes, and then it's grease.
They do.
Then you can just walk.
I don't know what that
Now
is
you're just
about
walking.
your lactic acids or
Not
whatever.
if-
There's something
Not
scientific
if you pushed
there.
up the speed fast.
Dude, you put it on a 6, 30
Well, yeah.
minutes. On a 6, you get 100 stories in 30 minutes.
Imagine if you did extrapolate that, though. Like, doesn't that stuff work on a longer timeline? Like, every single time that you don't want to go work out, and I do this with deadlifts. I don't know why it's that one particular exercise where I'm like, my back's going to break. I don't want to do it. I hate it. I'll, like, do anything to get out of doing deadlifts on Fridays is usually when I do them. And then when I do it, just like everybody, I'm like, oh, my God, I'm so glad I did that.
I don't think it's like everybody.
Or like everybody that has that feeling where you're like, I don't want to do this
I don't do
workout
legs.
today.
I'm not doing legs.
And then they do
Nick's
it.
already got a sweet trunk.
Nobody's ever leaving the gym and they're like, I shouldn't have done that. Nope. Everybody feels way
I do.
better.
On leg day.
They feel
When
way
I do
better.
legs, I'm like, I tell Alan, I said, bro, we're not doing this shit.
Leg day's money.
Pick your thing, whatever.
Leg
it
day's
is.
the best.
If you extrapolate that over maybe the course of a year and you just did the thing that you knew you needed to do and you didn't want to, you wouldn't get to Christmas and be like, well, that was a waste of a year. You'd be really excited with the results. But we continue to tell ourselves every
100
day.
calls a day. Make 100 calls.
Whatever it is. Make it really simple. Make 100 calls a day. Right? But I just promise you, the same way you feel about doing the exercise you don't want to do, on a longer timeline, you're going to feel that way about your business. Just do the stuff. And then you'll get used to it and it'll be amazing. Right?
Yep.
Have you ever thought about getting your MBA?
I thought about getting my law degree.
Really?
Yeah.
Getting your law degree would be, I just feel like a lot of fun. Lawyers don't litigate as much as I thought they did.
No, I would be that, like,
So-
the reason I don't want to, because I'm assuming I would be that guy that would just rub it in your face. I would probably be the most douchey attorney out there where I'm like, I'll just randomly just send letters, threatening letters.
But here's the thing: is like those attorneys are going to be
Totally
those
worked
attorneys are
out.
going to get smoked. Isn't that like exactly what ChatGPT is perfect for?
That is true.
Like contract type attorneys. Isn't that where they should be more afraid of this AI than anything else?
But I'm not doing
a
it-
lot of corporate
Yeah.
attorneys and stuff.
Like
yeah.
litigation attorneys, I get it, but dudes who just write contracts, shouldn't
there's no
AI scare
nuance.
the shit out of
Yeah,
them?
but I
That's a
wouldn't
good
do it
point.
just to make money. Like, I'm just doing it to have
Just
it
for fun.
and
You just
being
want to
like,
fight. You just want to argue with people for a living.
yeah, I'd be like, I'm an attorney.
Yeah. I do that when I'm
There's
I'm
no-
an attorney.
There's no reason.
I do that when I'm under contract
Yeah.
with somebody. I'm just like, oh, you want to fight with me, Mr.
Yeah.
Agent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it always backfires because then like you go off on this agent and then your client needs something.
Exactly.
And it's something that's
Yeah.
such
It's like Murphy's
Just
Law,
like-
dude.
So I have
Yes.
learned this by through experience of wait until the deal is some semblance of done
Yes.
before that happens. Like if you terminate on us, all right, we ain't dancing anymore.
That's done.
I'm not gonna do anything outside the contract, but I'm also not gonna like hassle my client about shit for you after we're out of contract.
Yeah.
But that is the worst thing when like your client negotiates so hard and they go back and they're like, we need to close 4 days later. I'm like,
You're like-
you can kiss my ass because there is no way. I told you if you
Yes.
needed to ask for something, not to ride this donkey all the way into the ground, and you did, and now you need 4 days. And I call the agent. No, I always tell my client, I'm like, look, I've got your back, and I call the agent. I'm like, hey, look, man. Like, I know we wore you guys out, but my guy really needs 4 days. What do we need to do to get that right? Like on the other side, I'm coming in humbly, man.
Look, I know.
Hat in hand.
I know I don't have
It
that.
always happens every time
I
you're
know.
just a dick to that. And,
think-
and it's usually because the client is really pushing you hard on it.
Yeah.
God, like
And they're usually the one that is now overcorrecting. They go in super hard. They
Yep.
need you to fight for them, and then they don't think about things all the way. And they're like, "Oh man, we need more time."
Here's the thing: is early in my career, I would react emotionally to that.
Yeah.
Now in my career, I react contractually to that. Right? Like I know that contract like the back of my hand, and we'll just honor whatever we can honor through the contract, however that works out for whoever. Right? Like whatever we can do, that's what we're gonna do. Like getting emotionally involved doesn't feel good anymore. But when somebody like jams your client up and they still have a position of leverage in the contract, I'm like, let's go ahead and use this up right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Dude. That's super true. That is so true. I don't know. I think maybe I just wanted the title.
Petty realtor
I
stuff.
kind of want an MBA. Same reason I want to get my private detective's license. Be Detective Brian Force, MBA.
I want everybody to go. Matt still sells real estate. Why is he on vacation all the time? That's
fair.
That's the title I want.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Jesse,
No more
before we get
schooling.
out of here, I don't have a question, but I want estimates. I don't know how to even Google this. Like, how strong is an armadillo shell? Like, what can you run over an armadillo with?
First off, I'm going to tell you a little something. Is everybody thinks all armadillos have hard shells, and you actually don't do. The bigger question is, how many species of armadillo are there? Because
So many.
do that first.
Because
How many
Brian is
species
assuming that there are all these Texas armadilli that are just running around here, and there's actually a hairy, screaming armadillo.
Oh, you saw that too?
Yes, dude.
Where?
That TikTok is the whole reason I'm saying this question. There are so many species of armadillo. It is a armadillo. It does not. First off, some armadillos have leprosy, so don't touch armadillos.
First of all, I don't try to touch them in the.
Yeah, I was.
And
never
they don't
gonna-
all they don't
yeah.
all roll up like a roly poly thing either. Like this other one, it's just a hairy armadillo
Yep.
that sometimes will scream at you. I mean, it sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong, the animal still
Jeez,
sucks.
Where are those?
But I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
This
know.
is
Australia,
an actual
probably.
study from the National Institute of Health. Armadillo armor, mechanical testing, and micro something. This is going to have some great information.
No, it's not. I need to know how many pounds per square inch this armadillo
That's
shell
what I
can
think.
handle. I don't know what
The
18 MP lower A
Top and
is.
highly mineralized style have a tensile strength. Why 20 MPa? What is that?
That's a
don't
lot.
know.
Or not.
Is that a
Or it's
lot?
not.
That's some unit of measure I don't even know.
I guarantee you no armadillo
Just
can
go,
stand
Jesse.
up to my
Just
punch.
go back.
He's doing tensile strength.
Yeah, we don't have time for this.
We don't. Yeah, go back to explain it to me like I'm 5.
No, just go back on the other one because it said, "Does armadillos actually have a hard shell?" See, go to the top. People
Do
ask
that. Hard shell, Carper's bow. It
It does.
does.
Say, it says armadillos have a hard shell, just
Yeah.
like armadillo.1/tour
There you go.
for the home warranty.
For the home warranty protection.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
make
So I
sure.
think that's perfect. That
Yeah.
the people have asked, Google has answered. Just go to armadillo.1/tour if you need that hard shell protection, because it's going to cover you, and it's going to cover you really hard.
Not with
So
leprosy
hard.
either.
To
No,
the tune of
and it won't
20
scream at you. It's not going to be
MPAs.
hairy. Well, Theron is hairy,
Darren,
but I don't think Theron screams that way.
I don't
He might.
know.
He's
He
pretty
doesn't.
chill.
He's got
Yeah.
a very nice voice. He can sing.
Yeah, he sings.
He's
does.
delightful to listen
yeah.
to.
It's nice.
Pretty calm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty calm.
You know what y'all should have is sing off, because he goes on Facebook and sings. Brian used to.
We used to.
I don't want you guys to do that
I
because
think
you're
we
both
should-
my friends and I get embarrassed for people.
Yeah.
You guys are both good singers, but if I watch you have a sing off, I'd be like, oh my God, what am I watching?
It's a weird thing to do in your 30s.
I would.
anyway.
I'd feel weird
Yeah.
for you
Is
guys.
Theron 30? Or is he in his 40s?
Oh, dude, Darren's easily 94.
Yeah.
Look at the face on that guy.
But if he's 94, he's looking good. That
He
face
is
is
actually
looking good.
a sexy
It's
bastard.
that arm, that hard shell protection,
Yeah,
protecting
that's
his
right.
face.
Exactly.
Armadillo.1/
Sending UV
tour.
rays back at the sun.
Yeah. I don't know how to segue this into
You know
Dana
who else
or
is looking good?
you
could
is it
choose-
tobacco or
take your
Dana?
pick.
Mortgage Mike
Take
in
your pick.
Texas.
Mortgage Mike of Texas is looking real good right now because he's got those hard shell rates.
Whatever.
Yeah. MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. He'll give you that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. And then if you need property management needs here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, just go to homewardDFW.com and make sure to let Dana know that we sent you that way, because she's really persuasive and she'll persuade you to do anything.
Literally anything.
If somebody doesn't comment how many species of armadillos on before next show, I'm going to freak out.
Wait, before you exit. Oh, hold on. Before we exit, I
They did
never
this to me last week, too.
I
He
never-
never does this.
I
Two
never-
jobs on this show.
I never drag this on. By
That
the
is
way.
I
true.
know you don't.
I do want to bring up
I'd
how
like to talk about this.
how your Instagram reel
Yeah.
has just blowing up.
Yep.
So this was
So
from
you
the
need to
show
go to
last
you
week.
need to go to Matt's Instagram reel because it talks nothing about real estate, by the way.
No.
And it's about how he's tweaking out on Red Bull.
Yeah.
And
Why did that one get so much play?
Well, I have no idea because I put 3 stupid hashtags on it, and I think it was just that everything I've ever had get that many, anything over 40,000 views has always just been
rubbish.
absolutely nonsense. Yeah. And the podcast Instagram didn't give it any love, and I actually tagged the podcast, and we didn't get anybody to over there. Here's what I did learn though, and I commented to this guy on there, whatever your name is, that people. people have this misappropriation of their own worth, I guess, on social media of thinking that everybody wants to hear. Because I posted it. It's not a great story. It was from 20 years ago. Recap is, I had drank too much the night before. I was sober the next day, but I was on no sleep. I drank a bunch of Red Bull, drove to Iowa on a suspended license. It's dumb.
Yeah, but you were using tweaker words.
I did. I said I was tweaking on Red Bull out of my gourd, and that's what makes the line funny.
Yeah,
funny.
But this guy gets on there and he's just like sad. And he's like so pissed off at me, like I did something.
So disappointed.
By the end of it, like you guys know me on social media, I don't really talk S to anybody. It's like it's not what I'm trying to put out there. But by the end of it, I'm looking at this dude. I was like, you know what, man? I'm gonna be super honest with you. Like I have a little bit of time. Here's the thing: is my posts don't go viral, and so like you're commenting on it like I'm somebody who just ignores these comments, but like you're just being a dick. And like you're commenting on stuff that nobody cares about. Like, yeah, it was in my 20s. It's a silly story. I'm not out here telling kids to like drive up and down the coast with no license, only on Red Bull, right? Like this, like just freaking relax.
But do we have to now refer to you as Matt Viral Kelderman?
No, that's not even my best one. I had one get almost
a
million.
Go crazy.
I had one get almost 1 million.
Which was
it was one of this. It's
is
a
that the
stupid one where
cosplay?
it got 875,000 or something like that. Oh my god, that was just a dumb one though. But this one was actually
you got to be making millions off of this.
Instagram
Reels.
Instagram has sent me no money. I will tell you the key to this though is we do a lot of content. Like for those of you who, if you don't produce a lot of content, this can be difficult. For those of you who already crank out a lot of stuff, you have a weekly show, whatever, just take those and chop out 15, 30 seconds of those and post them every day and just kind of watch the engagement go up a little bit. If that's something that you're interested in, like give that a bit of a try with your content because
but all
it
the
works
ones that
really,
go
really
viral
well.
is not in your business, not any
No,
of that.
just say a lot of irrelevant stuff.
I don't
Like-
even know what I'm doing.
Just be like when Matt Kelderman was driving up the coast doing cocaine.
Yeah, Cocaine Bear. I should
Cocaine
have.
Bear.
I should have put Cocaine Bear on
that,
there.
you would have got 2 million views.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. All right.
Missed
Well,
opportunities.
maybe on this week's episode.
Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the only real estate podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button. Right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook, like everyone else is, go over and search the only real estate group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review, please. Go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.